Welcome back to Data Analysis in Excel, brought to you by Zen Consults. Last class we looked at comparison operators, how to compare two values to get a true or a false. Then we looked at comparison functions, and or especially, and of course there's a not which just flips the value from true to false and all. And we explained that and gives you a true when all the logical tests are true, whereas or gives you a true when at least one is true. Okay, so when will we need to do all these things? Well, we are where we are. So we are going to look at the if function. This is one of the most powerful functions in Excel, and it's useful for cases like this. Okay, now basically the if function has three arguments. The first argument is a logical test, right? You are asking Excel a question. That's the first argument. The second argument is the value if true, because I remember we said that every logical test is going to return a true or a false. So you're telling Excel, if you get a true, use this value. If you get a false, use this value. So the first argument is logical test. Second argument is the value if true. Third argument is the value if false. There's no need of talking too much. Let's just dive right into a question and see how we can use the if function. Okay, so in this example, we're saying we're going to give 10% commission to all sales that are above 350,000. Now, first of all, we know that anybody that doesn't get above, this is above. They didn't say that are equal to and above. This is, you have to beat the 350 mark. So I mean, in other words, anyone that sells 350 will not also get commission, right? So before we even use the if function, let's just do a simple comparison. And I'm going to say equals this value. Are you greater than 350? Okay, I'm just doing a comparison. If I press Control Enter, I can see that I get a true here, meaning this person actually beats the cutoff mark of 350. If I come here and I drag it down, I can see false, false. This person actually hits the 350 mark, but because the condition is that you have to beat it, you have to be above 350, the person is also not getting. This fellow was also below. Hannah got, she was above 350, so you can see there's a true and here's a false. So I have my sequences of trues and false. This is my logical test. And so the if function will take this logical test and ask, if it's a true, give the person 10%. If it's not true, give the person 0. Okay, so let's build the if function now. Equals if. You can see the description here says checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So it checks if the condition is met, it gives you a value if it is true, and give you another value if it is false. So I'm going to press tab. Now I have a logical test. What's my logical test here? I'm checking if this gross sales, are you greater than the threshold of 350, 1, 2, 3. Now don't make the mistake of typing 350 and typing a comma 1, 2, 3. The reason why you cannot do that in the formula is because in Excel, once you type a comma, Excel assumes that you are going to the next argument. And of course, I've said this before, but let me say it again. Whenever you are typing a formula, please always be looking at your arguments. Right now, the argument I'm in is value if true. I'm not supposed to be, I'm still supposed to be in logical test argument. So the reason why Excel moved to value if true is because of the comma that I typed. So if I delete that comma, I'm back in logical test. I can click on it and select the entire, what's it called for me. So I can see that my logical test is check if this cell here is greater than 350,000. That's a logical test. Now I'm going to press a comma and watch this. Once I press a comma, this becomes highlighted, telling me that right now Excel is asking me, what is the value if it is true? The value if it is true is I want to give the person 10% commission. That is 10% of his sales. So I'm going to type 10% and I'm going to multiply it by sales, and that is the value if true. Logical test, are you greater than 350? Value if true, 10% of the sales. Okay, I'm going to press my comma again for the value if false. Now, if this logical test gives me a false, I want to see a 0. So I'm just going to type 0. And that's all. I can close my parenthesis, and control enter. I can drag this down. And of course, I can see that the only person that is getting, the only two people that are getting are Dayo and Hannah. Every other person, no commission because they didn't get above the 350. Now, this is all well and good. However, when you're working in Excel, you always want your model and your workbook to be dynamic. So the problem with this is if your boss comes tomorrow and says, you know what, we have changed the commission from 10% to 7%. What you will need to do in this case is that you will need to go into the formula and change this 10%. You delete this and type 7. You press Ctrl Enter. Then you can now drag this down. Right? If tomorrow they've changed it from 7% to 12%, you have to go back into the formula and you need to be making that update. And the worst part is you could have one cell here, another cell somewhere here. So you need to know that you have to change it here. You also have to come here and change it, which is not efficient. Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z to go back to the original formula. Whenever you have things like this, it's always better for you to put these are called the inputs, into a cell with a label and a value. So that tomorrow, if this number changes, you can easily come here and update. This is a very, very important rule. Let me make it bold. Maybe give it red text, yellow background, or something. Never hard code inputs. What I've just done now is a violation of Excel rule. I have hard coded this 350 and I've hard coded this 10%. Except for things like months. You're only going to have 12 months in a year. You're only going to have 7 days in a week. You can hard code those ones. But things like that can change. Like this 350, it can change tomorrow. This 10%, it can change tomorrow. You should never hard code it into your formula. You should always have what we call an input table, right? Such that you can now tweak the numbers. So let's leave this and let's come here. Let me change this to 10%. And let's change this to 350. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, what am I saying here? I want to do the same thing I did here. Write my if function, but give him 10% and 0 where they don't meet the threshold mark. But now I'm going to link to these cells. So watch this. Equals if. Oh, I didn't type an equals if. I can see my formula. I press tab. My logical test is I'm asking, is this gross sales? Are you greater than this value? Now, again, before I just drag down, I need to ask myself the same question. You see, so it's very important. If you don't understand cell referencing, please go back to the video on cell referencing and please watch it and understand it well, because you're going to do cell referencing a lot, as you go deeper and deeper in Excel. All right, so you have the gross sales here, and you're going to compare this gross sales with the threshold. Let me remove. I can come here. Once I see this cross arrow, I can click and drag so I can see my target. So you are comparing the gross sales with the target. However, you're asking yourself, if I copy this formula down, I want this to come down. However, this G46, I want it to be fixed. So I can press F4 to lock it. So that's my logical test. When I click on this, I'm checking if my gross sales is greater than this target, right? I press my comma to go to my value if true. My value if true is take 10% and multiply it by the gross sales. So use my 10% here. I can click here. Again, I'm going to copy this formula down and I don't want this to move. So I'm going to press F4 to lock it. So I'm going to take this 10% and multiply it by the gross sales. Right? Then I can type my comma. Value if false is 0. I close my if, Control Enter. And I can drag this down. Now the beautiful thing is that if they reduce this target from 350 to 300, I just need to enter the 300 here and automatically this updates. This does not update because this still has 350 hard coded. If they change the commission from 10% to 15%, this updates automatically because it's linked. This doesn't. So very, very important rule, never hard code your inputs. Alright, let's move to the next example. Here you're saying you're going to give 10% commission to female salespeople with sales above 350. So I have two conditions here, and those two conditions must be met. First condition is that the person must be female. Second condition is that the sale must be above 350. And because of my rule here, what's it called? I've created my table here. I'm giving 10%, so I can change this 7 to 10, and the threshold is 350, so that's fine. So now I have the name of the salesperson, I have the gender, and I have the sales amount. So first off, as long as you are female, as long as you are a male, you're not getting anything, because I'm only giving female people. Now, not only do you have to be female, you also have to sell above 350. So there are two conditions here. So those two conditions need to be met, and we know that once we have two conditions and those two conditions have to be met, we can use the AND function. Okay? So I'm going to say equals AND tab just for now. Before I do my if, let's just see the true and falses, right? The first logical is you have to check if the gender is female. So I have my gender as F here. So I can select this gender here. Are you equal to female? Alright? That's the first logical test. Again, I'm copying this down, so I need to press F4 to lock it. Right? And now I'm going to press comma to go to logical 2. So the first logical is that the gender must be female. The second logical is that the sales must be greater than 350. Now I cannot click on sales here, so I can click up here and press down. So now I've selected sales C6. This C6 must be greater than what? The target of 350. Again, I'm going to press F4 to lock just this 350. C6 remains relative because I'm copying down. So now I have two logicals, and I can actually evaluate them and see what they are for this Lionel. If I click on logical 1, it highlights it. If I press F9, I can see that gives me a false. Ctrl Z to go back. I'm asking if B56 is the same thing as F. M, this guy is male, so this is false. If I click on logical 2, if I press F9, that gives me true. Ctrl Z. So he actually did above 350, but because he's a male, we're not giving him anything. Right? I can close my bracket. Oh, Ctrl Z. I have to stop the highlighting, then close the bracket. So now I have two logicals. This gave me false, this gave me true for this line. If I press Ctrl and enter, I can see false here. I can click and drag, and I can see I only get true when you have a female that did above 350. This person is female, the person did above 350, yes. This person is female, did she do above 350? No. Because there is a false here, I'm not giving the person. All the males will not get, but only the females that got above 350 will get. So that is how you use the AND function. But now I want to combine the AND function with the if statement. Let me delete this so we can write again. Like I said, practice makes perfect. You need to practice writing these formulas, from scratch. Okay, so now I want to do a yes or no. That is, if the person met this criteria, give the person yes. If not, put a no there before we now write the formula here. So let's try that. Equals if tab. What's the logical test? The logical test is an AND function, because I have two logical tests and I'm checking. I'm checking for gender. I'm also checking for sales value. So I have to type and then press tab. Alright, so now logical 1 is this gender, are you equal to this? Again, I'm going to copy this formula down, so I need to lock this cell. So I press F4 to lock. That's logical 1. Comma. Logical 2 is this sales value. I'm going to click on, I can't click on sales directly, so I click on this sales and press down here. Right? This sales value, are you greater than the target? Then I can press F4 to lock that. Okay? I close. So this entire AND function is my logical test. The AND function is my logical test. If I click on this logical and I click on it, you can see that for the if, the entire AND is my logical test. If I press a comma, it has now gone to value if true. Now, what's the value if true? For now, the value if true is just a yes. So I'm going to put, I can't just type yes, it's going to give me an error. Because I'm putting a text in a function, I have to put it in double quotes. So double quotes, yes, double quotes. So I'm saying, if this entire function gives me a true, type yes here, comma, the value is false. If it's false, what do I want to see? I want to see no, in double quotes as well. Then I can close my if function and press enter. And if I drag this down, I can see yes, yes, and yes here. And you notice that the yes only occurs for those that are female with sales that are above 350. Okay, so now to calculate the commission itself, I need to rewrite this formula. I can either cheat and copy and just change the formulas, but let's practice writing it again. So I'm going to type equals if tab. What's the logical test? Logical test is an AND logical test. The logical test is AND. First test, this gender must be equal to a female. Again, I'm copying this down, so this has to be locked, F4, comma. Second test, the sales must be greater than this. Again, I'm copying this down, so I press F4. So these two logical tests need to both be true for the if function to work. So I have to close my AND. Notice here, I can see that I'm saying logical 2. I'm still inside the AND function. That's where I am. Once I press my close bracket, I come out of the AND function, and now I am in the if function on the logical test of the if function, right? Comma. Now the value if true is I want to take 10% of sales. So I'm going to take this 10%. Again, I'm copying this formula down, so I have to lock it, F4, multiplied by the sales value. This one doesn't need to be locked because if I copy it down, I want the sales value to move, so that's fine. Comma, the value if false. That is, if this entire logical test is wrong, the value if false is 0. So I can close, Control Enter, and I can click and drag. And notice only those that got yes would actually get commission. If this person maybe sold actually 300, she won't get any more, even though she's a female. Control Z. So please take time to practice this. We're going to have one more question. Another example. Look at this. We have a condition that we are giving commission to people that are either female or they sold above 350. Now again, we have two conditions. The person either has to be a female or the person has to sell above 350. Now in this case, this is not an AND function because you're not checking if the person is both female and the sale is above 350. In this case, if the person is female, the person is going to get. If the person is also male, but the person score above 350, is going to get. So this is a perfect example of an OR condition. Because you're checking whether the person is either female or the sale is above 350. Before I do the if formula, let's just type in the OR statement. Again, checks whether the argument is true. So let's type. The first one is, are you female? Let's check. M, are you equal to F? I'm copying down, so I have to press F4 to lock. Comma, the second logical, is this sales here, are you greater than the target? F4, close and Control Enter. And I can see that this is true. Even though this fellow is male, he shouldn't get. However, because one of the other condition is met, he's going to get. I can drag this down. So you see, the only falses you can see here are those that are male and they did not get. So this had to be false and this had to be false. If I come here, let me go to formulas, evaluate formula. If I click on evaluate here, this is M and this is F. So that gives me false. This is 210, this is 350. That also gave me false. So it's only when you have false and false that you will get a false for the OR condition. Okay, so now let's see if we can rewrite this. Let me delete this and rewrite the if function now. Equals if tab. My logical test is the OR statement. So OR tab. What's the first logical? U must be equal to female. F4 to lock it because I'm copying that down. Copy, comma. Second is that the sale must be greater than the target. Again, F4 to log this. Then I close my OR. As soon as I close my OR, I come back to the logical test of the if function. Now I need to go to value if true. I press my comma to go to value if true. What's the value if true? By giving them 10%. So I'll change this to 10%. I select this, I press F4, and I multiply it by the sales value, comma, the value. Oh, sorry, we're not doing that here, we're just doing yes or no. So I can select this value if true in double quotes, yes, right? In double quotes here, no. Value false, I close and I press enter. So I can see yeses all the way. The only no's I'm seeing are for those that are male and that did not meet up to the target. Okay, so to calculate the commission now, since I've done it once, I can cheat, right? I don't just copy and paste like this. Things would have moved. When you want to copy a formula, you go into the formula by press F2 to go into the formula, or you go to the formula by just select it like this. Select everything and then Control C, escape to come out of the function. Come here, double click into the formula bar or double click into the cell, anyone, and then press Control V. So now I have my logical test. If I click here, you can see my logical test is this entire OR. That's written already. So for my value if true, I can select value if true and change it to this value here, right? I'm going to press F4 to lock it. Then I'm going to multiply it by the sales value. Okay? Then the value false, I click on it because there's something there. I delete that, I just type 0. So again, what this formula, if I want to read this formula out, what the formula is saying is, if either this is this or this is greater than this. If that is true, right, come here and say, if that is true, take this percentage here and multiply it by the sales value. If it is not true, drop a 0. Basically, that's what this entire formula is saying. I can say Control Enter and I drag it down. And as you can see, everybody gets, apart from these 3 people, because they are males that did not meet up to the target. Okay, I'm going to do one more example, and this example might be a little confusing, but just try to watch the video again and see if you can understand it. Now in this case, we want to do what we call nesting of if functions. We want to nest an if function. We are given that we're going to do anybody that has sales above 450, we're going to give the person 20%. Now, if the person does not get out to 450, the person is above 420, we're going to give the person 15%. And if the person is above 350, we give the person 10%. Any other thing other than that, we'll not give the person anything. So now we have 3 conditions. And this is not an AND condition, this is not an OR condition. This is a multi-layered condition. Because you're first going to check for one. If that is not it, you're going to check for another. If that's not it, you're going to check for another. This is called nesting. Alright? Whenever you have conditions like this, you should always start with the most extreme, and then you begin to come down. So in this case, we're going to start with the 450, and I'm going to check if the sale is greater than 450, right? If the sale is greater than 450, we're going to give the person 20%. If we're not going to give the person 20%, we're not going to check again if the sale is greater than 420. So let's do this on Excel. For now, let's just calculate the percentage, right? So equals if tab. The logical test here is, these sales here, are you greater than what? 450, Abi? So for this case, because I normally I would have done a table here, but because this is kind of it's going to be a very long formula, so I can just type in the values here. So I'm going to first check if the sales is greater than 450. Okay, comma, if this is true, what I want to give the person 20%, Abi, so I'm going to type 20%. Okay, now, comma, if this is not true, I then want to check for 420. So I'm going to type another if again. If, and press tab. So, like I said, if you don't understand this, try to watch the video again and try to follow along. So, if this sale is now greater than 420. Okay, so first check if the sale is greater than 450. If it is true, give me 20%. If it's not greater than 450, now check again if the sale is greater than 420. If that is true, give me 15%. Comma. If that is not true, help me check another if again. Now check if the sale, the same sale here, if you are greater than 350. If this is true, give me 10%. Now, if look at the way it is nested. You have the first if function, you have the first logical test, and the first value if true. Then you have to write another if, the second logical test, the next value if true. You have to write another if, the third logical test, and the next value if true. Because Excel will first check this. If Excel checks this, and this is greater than 450, all of these other ifs will not be done anymore. It will just stop at that. And we're going to see that now by the time you look at the evaluate formula. So once you get to the last condition, right? I have the first condition and the value, second condition and the value, third condition and the value. Once I get to this last condition, I can type my comma and put the value false. In other words, if none of these have been met, I can type a 0 and close. But now I have to close all of these brackets. Notice that I open the bracket here. I open another bracket here. I open another bracket here. So I have to close 3 brackets. So I close the first. Notice that they have the same color. I close the second. Notice the same red color. Then I have to close the black, the big one, and I close this. So again, this is just nesting 3 conditions. First condition is 20%. Second condition is 15%. Third condition is 10%. Then if none of these happen, give me a 0. I can press Control and Enter, and I can drag this down. Okay. Now let me select this one of 20%, and let's see how the function works. If I go to formulas, evaluate formula, see what happens. It will first check. It will start from the left to the right. So it will first check, is this cell greater than 450? It evaluates 500. Are you greater than 450? This is true. Once it sees this true, it gives me that 0.2. Every other thing, it neglects it, and it gives me the value. Okay? Let's go to the 15 and see what's happening there. Formulas, evaluate formula. So it's first going to check this. Are you up to 450? That's false. So because it is false, it skips this 20% and goes to the next check. 430, are you greater than 420? That's true. Because this is true, it's going to give me that 15% as 0.15, and it's going to neglect every other thing. And it's going to evaluate it as 15%. Okay? Let me close this. The same argument for 10. Let me go to the 0. Formulas, evaluate formula. Okay, so for this one, it doesn't meet any of these criteria. So watch this. If I click on this, it's not up to, so I get false. If I click on this, it's not up to, I get false. If I click on this, it's not up to, I get false. Now I'm just going to get just this 0. So this 0 is what is going to apply for all of the functions, one by one, and I'm going to get 0%. So what we just done is called nesting a formula. Okay. So now to calculate, this is just the commission percent that you're going to multiply with the sales value. So to calculate the actual commission, I can take the percentage commission and then multiply it with the sales value, and that gives me the commission that I'm going to give them. Okay. Now to do all this in one step, I can calculate this entire thing. I can just copy this into the formula and then multiply by the sales. But because I want us to practice it, let us walk through it one at a time. So the first if, I'm going to compare this sales with the greatest value of 450 equals if tab logical test, did you sell greater than 450, comma, if you did, I'm going to give you 20%, right, comma, if not, let's now check again. If tab logical test, are you greater than 420, 1 2 3, comma, value if true, if this is greater than 420, I'm giving you 15%. Value if false is a 0. Sorry, it's not a 0. Value if false, I have to check again. If the sales, now check if you are greater than 350, 1 2 3. If that is true, give him 10%. If none of these guys are true, if this is not true, this is not true, and this is not true, give the person 0. And then close, close, close. Now if I press Ctrl Enter, this gives me the same 10% that I had here. So now to calculate the commission itself, I have to multiply it by the sales value. And that gives me this. And I can click and drag. Alright, that was a very epic video. If you don't understand it, please ensure you watch it again. If you need help, you can always, chat us up. I will get back to you. Here is one for you to try. Just try to see if you can do this on your own. You have all men get 15%. So once you're a man, you get 15%. Now for the females, we're going to give 10% to those above this, 50% to those above this, and 20% to those above this. So let's try this, and I'll see you in the next class.